Hello, tiny friends. Welcome back to TinyKeyHoleMinis. Currently, I am working on a few different projects at the same time, and today I'll be working in the Josephine house. I've been wanting to renovate these doors for quite some time now. I knew at some point I would be, but I just recently finished watching the Monster Ed Gein story, and you're probably thinking, well, what the heck does that have to do with this? But here's what happens to me. I always find myself getting distracted by the aesthetics of a scene, the artifacts in the scene, and just totally inspired by what the scene looks like. I'm not sure if anybody else goes through this, but I am always focused on the scene instead of the story of what's going on, especially if it's in the time and era of what I'm working in or what I want to work in. And that is what happened to me the whole time I was watching this story. It happens quite often. I get very distracted by the aesthetics of a scene. So I'm going to be popping these doors out and giving them a new look to fit this old farmhouse. Now these doors just pop right out. They're in there with pins, and they were pretty easy to pop out. But my main concern is, am I going to be able to get them back in? Because I've never really installed doors before. I'm usually not thinking that far ahead. When I'm doing a project, I usually just go full force into it. Now, working on the door frames are going to be a little bit more complex because I have to get in there because I can't take them out. But somewhere in this dollhouse is the little ghost boy Orlan, my Guatemalan worry doll. He has been hidden in the house somewhere by my other half. And I'm sure he's like right in front of my face because that would be obvious. I worked on this whole project and completely forgot and never even seen him. So if you guys happen to see him in the house, because I still don't know where he is, let me know in the comments below. I'm not even going to look for him. I'm going to see if you guys can find him. But if you guys happen to see him, please let me know where he is. Okay, so I can tell that these doors were stained with wood stain, but I'm not even going to sand them right now. I'm just going to paint over them and I'll sand them later on. Okay, to create the look I'm going for, I'm going to be using white acrylic paint, raw umber, and I am running really low on this raw umber, so I'm thinking I'm going to have to make some more of that. I have some black acrylic paint, some crackle medium, and chipping medium. Okay, I did run out of the raw umber as expected, so I'm going to create some more. I'm going to use this Waverly chalk paint. This is truffle, it's their brown, and I'm going to mix it with a lot of black to create that raw umber shade. This bottle's been sitting in storage for quite a while, and it kind of thickened up from the temperature. It's almost like the consistency of melted chocolate. So I'm just going to add some water to this. So anytime your chalk paint is too thick, just water it down and it freshens right up like a brand new bottle. I'm just trying to mix up enough of this paint so that I don't have to try and match the shade later on because I have 5 doors to paint both sides of. So this is looking pretty good. It doesn't look like the shade of raw umber while it's wet, but chalk paint will dry a lot darker. So you want to keep that in mind if you're using it. See? These are the perfect shade of raw umber. They look just like the bottle. And now I can go on to the next step, which is chipping medium. Now I'm going to do the chipping medium first because you have to let it dry completely versus the crackle where you just got to wait until it's tacky and then apply the layer of paint. Okay, I got my layer of chipping medium on, and while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and outline the doorknobs with the white paint. The other side of the doors are already painted, and I didn't do this, so it added an additional layer of paint on the doorknobs. And I'm just trying to eliminate that. And the paint job on the other side of the doors is pretty messy. It doesn't look very pretty at all. And Kiwi's going to try and talk over me because I'm sitting by her. So the chipping medium is about dry, and I'm just going in with a little bit of the crackle I am using my finger because I'm not using very much. I'm just putting it in sporadic places. Okay, I've waited long enough and I think the crackle is about tacky and I'm a little bit impatient. So I'm just going to go ahead and start painting. The paint is smearing the crackle around because I just didn't wait long enough, but it is cracking. I can see it cracking as I'm painting. I did learn something with this crackle. When I painted the front door, I put the crackle on and walked away to go do some other things, and I almost forgot about it. So when I came back to it, the crackle medium was very close to the dry stage. Now, you're not supposed to let it dry. It wasn't fully dried, but it was closer to the drying stage. I noticed that as soon as I put the paint on it, it started to crack instantly as soon as the paint touched it. So that was a good thing to learn, just to be a little more patient with it. So you can see the paint is not very pretty. It's got a lot of texture and bumps to it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and sand it with a fine grit sandpaper. This is going to wear away any of the edges around the door. It's going to smooth down all that texture and make it look like it had a nice paint job years ago. Okay, now it's time to start chipping away this paint and wearing it down. And I'm going to try a toothbrush this time because I was told about using a toothbrush and I just remembered that. So I'm just dipping it in water and scratching the paint away. But I will continue to use the cotton swab because I really like how that works out. And later on, I'm going to switch out the toothbrush for a cosmetic eyelash brush. And I really like how that worked out because it's a lot rougher than the toothbrush. And the eyelash brush that I have has a bendable tip on it, so I can angle it, which makes it a lot easier to get into those door frames. Okay, I had to move into another room because Kiwi was driving me bonkers, and I'm sure she was pretty annoying to some of you as well. So now I'm just painting the doorknobs black. I did a little touching up around it with some white acrylic paint. And now I'm going in to lightly brush the door plate with some more white acrylic paint, just to bring the design out some. I want it to look like it was painted white and then just worn away over the years. And then if I have too much white in one area, I'll just go back in with the black and touch it up. I just recently found this medium online. It's Tri Art Acrylic Mediums Top Coat Hard Gloss. This is actually a product from Blick Art, so you can get this right off of the Blick Art Materials website. And that would probably be the best price for this. It was pretty pricey, so I'm going to be careful with this, but it is super thin, so a little bit of this goes a long way. But I'm going to go ahead and try this out. Now you can probably put 2 coats on if you want a super high gloss, but I'm only going to use 1 coat because I kind of want that varnish to look like it's worn down a little bit. And then I'm just going to put it sporadically on the plate to make it look like some areas are completely worn down and some still have a little bit of shine. Most of the time, when I'm aging something, the last step that I'll do is shadowing with chalk pastels. So I'm going to do that, and I'm using mostly brown, but I do have a little bit of black. I've got my dedicated brush, and I'm using a skinny cotton swab. It's almost like a toothpick with cotton on it. So that's going to help me get right into those corners that I won't be able to reach with my brush. Now I am starting off with wet chalk pastels. So anytime I'm using the cotton stick, I'll call it that, I'll be using wet chalk. And when I'm using the brush, I'll blend it out with the dry chalk. So the wet chalk will bring contrast and the dry chalk pastel will blend that contrast out to a smoother shading, if that makes sense. And I just remembered that I still have my blending sticks from art school. So I'm wondering if I can use those instead of these cotton sticks, and then I'll be able to save on my sticks. So for this step with the cotton stick, I'm just going around the square sections right where the creases are. And I'll just do this on all the doors and then blend it out with the brush. And then if it's too dark an area, I go in with a wet cotton swab and just wipe it away. For the doorknob, since the plates are metal, I want it to look like there's some rust coming down. I'm just kind of creating a little run down the bottom of the plate and then maybe around the sides a little bit and then blend those out as well. Okay, now that I'm finished with the aging process, I want to take a good look at these doors. I hope it didn't upset too many people that I did this to these doors. You just got to remember that the Josephine house is a really old farmhouse and everything in it is pretty old. But I'm really happy with how these doors came out, so I definitely wouldn't go back. Now this door is the kitchen door. It's a bit different than the other doors. It has a different design on it. I never really noticed it until I took these doors down. This door I actually got right down to the natural wood on that, so I was able to get through the wood stain on this one. This door I got a little bit carried away with because it was the first door that I did. This was actually the bathroom door, but it's now going to be the sewing room door. And I'm noticing that it's upside down. So whoever put this door in, put it in upside down for some reason. Maybe they didn't realize it. I never realized it. It's hard to tell when the doors are in place, but now that I have them all out, I'm seeing the differences. Hey, tiny friends, it's a perfect time for a coffee break. And although I really don't have a big coffee habit, I do have a big coffee goal. And if you would like to help support my channel and help me achieve that goal, you can now buy me a coffee. All coffee donations will be going towards a 3D resin printer. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive, it just has to print good quality miniatures. To show my appreciation and how thankful I am, I will be gifting all contributors a free miniature package of the first successfully printed miniatures. And the more you donate, the bigger your package will be. It's super easy to do. You can either scan the code that you see on the screen, copy and paste the link, or just click the link in the description box below. I would like to kindly thank you for helping me achieve this goal. Now back to our project. Okay, for the door frames, I'm rushing through this process here. I didn't take much footage of doing the door frames because it was pretty difficult to do this part. But I began with the painting, and I'm just using this card to help me keep the paint on the door frame and not on the wall. The rooms are pretty narrow and they're hard to get into, especially with the camera. It was really hard for me to get to the back doors. So I was a little sketched out about having to do the door frames because I knew it was going to kind of be a complicated process. But I did get the job done. It just wasn't my favorite part of the project. So the paint has dried and right now I'm just adding the chipping medium. I'm going to skip the crackle on this because it's just an additional step that I can probably do away with. Because of the frames already being into place, it'll just help me get through the process a little bit quicker. So I've got one more to do, that's the downstairs. I really did debate on whether I wanted to do the front door or not. I decided to do this door after the first 4 doors that I did because I just knew it was not going to look right. It was going to throw everything off if I did not do the front door. And the outside of the door is already painted white, even though I went over it anyways, but it's already white out there. So I'm just going to get this door done too. And then I don't have to feel like the job is unfinished. Okay, so now I get to have a little bit of fun and stage the doors. So this is the front door, which already had curtains and a shade on it. I'm going to put that back on, but I did replace the knobs on the curtain rod. So here's the shade, the valance, and then this one is actually to the window. I wanted to match them up, so I replaced those knobs on the rod as well. These are what I created when I first got the house. They're just little cartoony polymer clay knobs that needed to go. So I'm going to use my tacky glue and actually put the tacky glue on the door. Originally, the shade was placed on the window, so it kind of set into place of the little window frame, but I'm going to actually put it on this little piece of wood. On the shade, I'm using hot glue to help keep it into place while the tacky glue dries. And I'm going to do that with the two valances as well. So I'm going to place the tacky glue on the wood, and then I'm going to place the hot glue on the back of the valance and just pop that into place. Originally, when I first put the shade on, I actually glued it onto the window and it sat in between the window frame itself. But since there isn't anything on the front side of the door, the glue was totally visible. And I just didn't notice that because I haven't really worked on that part of the house yet. So I just kind of switched that up a little bit. I'm just going to take this and glue it into place above the window. For the new bathroom door, I want to put some hooks on it, and I received these little drawer pulls from Queen City Minis, and they're embossed aluminum metal, I think. They're very easy to bend, so I'm just bending the little prongs forward to make them look like hooks. They have a little embossed flower design on them, and I thought they would make really great door hooks. And instead of having two, I now have four. To tarnish these a little, I'm going to use a trick that I learned from Gretchen at Little Gretchen's workshop, using rubbing alcohol and black acrylic paint just to dull them down a little bit. Now I like to use this technique on metals because it sticks really well and the alcohol dries really quickly. So for any of my metal pieces that I have to tarnish, I like to use Gretchen's technique. It's a great trick. Now I already have a bullet brassiere hanging on the door of the bathroom, and that's going to go back up. But I also want to create a robe. So I'm cutting a very tiny piece of this fabric. This was from an old shirt of mine. I thought that this would be an easy fabric to drape and manipulate. I'm going to use tacky glue to create a hem on one side, but I'm not going to do the other side. The other side's going to be tucked in, and just in case this side shows, I want to make sure that it has some sort of seam on it. Okay, so I have this tiny little piece, and you're probably thinking, how am I going to create a robe with this tiny little piece? Well, I learned this trick when I was creating the haul tree. I needed some garments and I didn't know how to create them. And I didn't want them to be too bulky hanging on the hooks. So I taught myself this little bit of trickery on how to just add tiny little pieces to create the illusion of the whole garment. And that's what I'm going to do with this robe. So I cut the remaining piece from this strip to create a sleeve, and I'm just going to roll it over on itself. So I'm going to trim it down and add a little bit of tacky glue to one side, then just roll it over and attach it to itself, creating a sleeve. I'm also going to create a little belt loop for this piece that I'm going to use for the belt, which is just like the sewn section, so it's all threaded. Okay, I have all my pieces to create a robe, and I'm thinking I need one more piece. I think it's missing something. A pocket. Yeah, so I created a pocket. The robe was missing a pocket. I also have some embroidered trimming that I cut from a piece of ribbon, and I'm just going to attach some of this to the bottom. And I'm using tacky glue for this. I don't want to get too fancy with this robe. She's an older woman, but she can still have a decorative robe. And I'm also going to add a tiny piece of this embroidered trimming to the top of the pocket and to the cuff of the sleeve. Okay, while all those parts are drying, I'm going to create an apron for the kitchen door. And this is just going to be a waist apron. So I've already created the waistband that will tie around the apron, and I'm going to use a tiny piece to create another pocket. Now with this square piece, I have already hemmed all of the sides, and now I'm just going in to create a few pleats. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue right on the very top, and then I'm just going to take it and fold it over and glue it to itself. And that'll create a nice little pleat. I'm going to do about 4 or 5 of these. Next, I applied a little bit of tacky glue along the top, and now I'm just going to add the waistband. For the pocket, I've already hemmed the 3 sides, and now I'm just creating a seam along the top. I'm still using tacky glue for this. And then I'll just glue it right into place in the very center. It's got a nice little pocket. It's probably not going to be very noticeable that it's open, but you'll still be able to see the pocket. I'm going to set this aside and let it dry completely before doing anything with it. Okay, going back to the door hooks, I'm using super glue on the metal part, and I'm using tacky glue on the door. And then I'm just going to stick them together. Now you may notice this is the kitchen door. Now the kitchen door didn't have any hooks, so this is going to be new for that door. And there are my 2 doors. They've got 4 hooks apiece, and now I can hang stuff on them for each room. Now it's time to assemble this robe illusion on the bathroom door. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the biggest piece and just kind of play around to see how I need to drape this, which hook I want to put it on. I just want to give myself somewhat of a visual here. I'm going to start off with a little bit of hot glue on the hook, and I'm going to use hot glue throughout this process, but I'm going to use like very, very little and be very light about it. I just want enough to grip the fabric and hold it into place. So I'm going to begin with this side, which will be mainly tucked in. And as I'm going around the piece and tucking it in, I'm just going to manipulate it to lay the way I want it to. I'm barely squeezing out any of this hot glue. I'm just basically using what's on the tip just to grab that fabric and lay it down into place. Just enough to hold it where I need it to stay. For this side, I did trim a little bit of that top part off because it was kind of bulky. So if you do something like this, don't be afraid to trim it down where you need to. As I'm gluing it down, I'm trying to pull it a little tight towards the bottom to make it look like there's some weight. And I do want this natural crease here, so I just put a tiny little bit there just to hold that crease. So to make this piece look like a full robe, like it's one whole piece, I'm just folding and tucking and gluing sections into place. And I'm just trying to make it look like it's naturally hanging on the hook. To add these individual pieces, I'm switching over to tacky glue, and I'm just going to glue down this pocket right here. I'm just lightly pushing it into place. I've already added the loop to the belt, and now I'm just going to glue this on, probably right about here. This way it'll just hang naturally. And then I'll just cut off the excess and tuck that end right underneath and glue that down with a little bit of hot glue. This is really a great little trick if you are new to making clothing or you really don't know how. You can just fake it until you make it. Okay, for the arm, I already glued a little hem around the top curve, and then I just kind of glued the back to the front, kind of pushed it down and glued it all together. I'm just adding some tacky glue along the top, and now I'm just going to press that down into place. Now this will need a little bit of work, so I've just kind of manipulated it the way I wanted it. And I'm adding a little bit of hot glue here and there to hold parts of this in place, but I am working very lightly. I'm working light-handed when I'm pressing the fabric down, and I'm working very lightly with the glue. Now I want to hide this corner, so I'm just folding over a piece of the fabric just to hide that. And now you guys know this trick, but I'm hoping other viewers that look at the house won't be able to tell that this isn't a full piece. So for the brassiere, I am just adding a little bit of tacky glue on the hook. I'm not using hot glue because I don't know why I did this, but I just recently glued this bullet brassiere down to the original hook on the other bathroom door. So when I pulled it off, I kind of broke the strap because the straps are really, really old elastic straps that hardly have any elasticity to it anymore. So it broke. I had to glue the strap together again, so it made it a little hard. And I don't want to use the hot glue because it'll be too bulky. So I'm just going to use the tacky glue for this and kind of push it into place and hope that I can hide that it's broken. Okay, for the kitchen door, I found this set of towels at Earth and Tree Miniatures. I love these so much. I've been dying to use them. So I'm going to take one and hang it over the door. But I'm going to need to use a little bit of fabric stiff for this. I'm going to hang the apron first, so I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue and put that into place. And I really had to make sure that this apron was completely dried because I've had pieces come undone. I've had pieces in the past come completely unglued on me because they weren't fully dried using the fabric stiff or the watered down glue on top of it. So I wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to come apart, and I'm just going to use the brush and lightly brush it with a little bit of the solution, and then I'll manipulate it into place. And once it's dried, it'll stay put. For the towel, I'm just going to dip it in and wring it out really, really good, and then just go ahead and glue it on the hook and manipulate it into place. If you don't have any fabric stiff, you can just easily use a watered down glue solution for this. But you just want to make sure to use it lightly because it will be very, very hard if you use too much, which I have made that mistake in the past. So I know. Okay, tiny friends, my battery died on my phone, and that is why you did not see the end of that last clip. But I will show you the results as I move around through the house. Now, I did get these doors into place, they weren't as difficult as I thought they were going to be. I didn't really have much of a problem popping them back into place. I was able to change the way some of the doors opened up. So to me, they just make more sense than what they originally did. Here is the front door, and I think that it goes really well with that chipped wall sitting next to it. I'm glad that I decided to do the door because, like I said, that would have stuck out like a sore thumb. Some of the doors have either a lip on the top or on the bottom, so it prevents it from opening the way that I wanted it to. The kitchen door used to open towards the table, and now it opens towards the open view of the dollhouse, which I feel makes more sense. But this is what the towel and the apron look like. I really wanted it to open towards the living room, but there's a lip on the top of that, so I couldn't get it to open that way. Going up into this bedroom, this poor bedroom, don't look at the mess. This door was completely changed. It used to open up, if you remember, towards the banister. Now it opens up towards the opening, which I feel like it makes more sense that way. The rooms are so narrow that I feel like the doors should be coming away from the space that you're going to use, and they should be coming towards the opening of the dollhouse. So for the bathroom, you may notice that the tub and the radiator are still missing. I had to take them out in order to work on the door, and I just left them out because I'm going to be doing some work in the bathroom. So I thought it's just best to leave them out for now. The door used to open up towards the inside of the bathroom, towards the tub, and I was able to get it to now open into the hallway. But I had to shave down the bottom of the door to do that. So now it just kind of swings both ways. Now for the sewing room door, I was able to get that one on, and that wasn't too bad. I did split the wood on a couple of them, and a couple of them are a little tight, but the overall process wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. Did anybody find my little ghost boy? I thought I saw his head hiding behind the club chair, but I couldn't tell. I'm going to have to go find him. So that is all I have for you today, tiny friends. I hope that you have enjoyed this project and you're not upset about the doors. If you have, please click that like button and give it a thumbs up and let me know what you thought about these doors in the comments below. It's okay if you don't like them. I love them and I feel like they belong in the Josephine house. If this is your first time visiting TinyKeyHoleMinis and would like to see more of my creations, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that top bell notification button to be notified every time I upload a new project so you don't miss out. As always, I'd like to thank you all for watching and welcome to all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for all of your support. Until next time, tiny friends, I hope you all have a lovely day. And I will see you all on the mini side. Bye-bye.